Deep in the heart of America, the story begins with our protagonist Vic catching some shut-eye at his place when two guys in suits and dark shades show up looking for him. Vic doesn't bother opening the door, so they just smash the lock and barge right in, even going as far as pouring a bottle of booze down his throat to force him awake. Vic's ticked off, asking, "Are you guys out of your minds? I was getting some sleep. Why are you waking me up?" He actually knows these guys. Their boss is named Billy, and they've worked together before. The reason they're here is that Vic designed a submarine called Siren 1 a while back, but it ran into a disaster while diving for research, and the company is desperate to clean up the mess. Vic doesn't think he's responsible, especially since the company ripped off his tech after he designed the blueprints, so he figures they're just trying to pin the blame on him. They haul him to the company headquarters to face the big boss, who gets straight to the point. There's an issue with the Siren 1 nuclear power system. It's unclear if the sub is completely trashed, but they've lost all contact. To make matters worse, the footage they recovered suggests the crew inside is likely dead. When the boss finishes, Vic fires back. "My design didn't even have a nuclear engine, so why are you calling me for a problem in something that wasn't part of my build?" The boss just shrugs, telling him, "Your design had flaws, so we brought in other people to modify them. Technically, we aren't calling it theft, just copying. It's your base design, but the modifications are ours, so the liability is still on you." He also brings up Mark, a crew member on that sub, who happened to be Vic's childhood best friend, and plays the emotional card. You wouldn't want your best friend to die for nothing, would you? Vic thinks it over and realizes there's some logic there, so he agrees to help with the investigation. The submarine they're taking out this time is Siren 2, another one of Vic's designs that the company tweaked, though they've beefed it up based on the lessons from Siren 1. The next day, the US military flies Vic off to Norway, where the sub is waiting, currently under the command of a navigator named Anna. Some of the crew aren't exactly fans of Vic, convinced the Siren 1 disaster was his fault, while others, mostly the mechanics, cooks, and doctors, are a bit friendlier. Vic doesn't care what they think as long as he gets the job done. A bit later, two more people are supposed to board, a Navy colonel and a marine biology expert, so space is tight. The doctor leads Vic to share a room with a mechanic named Roberts. Once the colonel arrives, the pilot, Old White, calls everyone to the dining hall for introductions. We quickly find out that the colonel is the captain for this mission, and the woman next to him is the biology expert, Nina, who, as it turns out, is Vic's ex-wife. Once prep is finished, they set sail. Since the colonel and Nina have their own offices, and the sub is an autopilot, Vic decides to go pay Nina a visit, figuring they have history and maybe they can patch things up.
Just then, Roberts catches up to tell him the sub is at the dive site and the captain has called a meeting in the control room. Vic warns them not to fill the tanks yet because the equipment hasn't been fully tested, and rushing it poses a major security risk. Plus, they're in the Arctic, and if there are hidden currents or ice shelf fractures, they'll end up just like Siren 1. The colonel asks the examiner, Old Black, if the ship is clear, and since he says yes, the colonel orders the dive and tells Anna to keep a sharp eye out for icebergs. Before they know it, they're face to face with a massive ice formation. Anna didn't see it coming until it was too late. Luckily, there's a narrow gap between two icebergs, but it's going to take some serious skill to thread the needle. Old White is a pro, but the ice isn't stationary and they take a hit. The sub is built tough, so they survive the impact and make it through the fracture. The colonel is suspicious because something that big should have shown up on sonar way earlier, so he grills Vic on his design. Vic isn't having it, pointing out that someone installed a cruise missile system on the sub that's been messing with the sonar data. They've modified so many parts of this sub, the red marked areas show exactly where, that it's like buying a car and then ripping it apart to rebuild it. You can't blame the manufacturer if it crashes. The colonel is silenced, clearly losing face, so he orders Vic to head to the captain's quarters to talk, while telling Roberts to shut down the missile system and recalibrate the sonar. In the captain's room, the colonel tears into Vic, accusing him of making excuses and claiming the military already vetted those modifications. Old Black, looking for some drama, taps into the audio recording system in the captain's room to eavesdrop. The colonel is just sticking to his guns, despite knowing he's wrong, and he ends up banishing Vic to the engine room to help the mechanics with the turbines, kicking him out of the control room for good. Vic is stunned, asking, "You called me here just to grease turbines? Are you kidding me?" But in the military, the brass makes the calls, so Vic is sent off. Back in control, Roberts tells the colonel they've reached the site of the accident. But here's the kicker: there's absolutely no radiation detected. If the Siren 1 nuclear system had failed as reported, the reading should have been off the charts.
Old Black suddenly picks up a weird sound and cranks up the volume for everyone to hear. Robert suspects it's an encrypted signal from the black box, so he decodes it, and sure enough, it's the signal from Siren 1. As they hit 27,500 feet, they spot these massive clusters of seagrass spreading out like a dense underwater forest. It makes no sense to anyone. How could seaweed grow this deep? It's completely unheard of. Nina points out that no sunlight reaches this deep, meaning no photosynthesis and zero nutrients, so vegetation shouldn't be here at all. She figures these plants must have some unique properties, so she asks the colonel to have someone grab a sample for the lab. At the same time, the detector picks up the sub's wreckage. The black box is even deeper, so the colonel decides to snap photos of the wreckage first, then head down to retrieve the black box, picking up the seaweed sample along the way. Two divers, Longhair and Big Strong, are on board. Longhair gears up to head out, with Big Strong standing by for support. To reach the wreckage, they have to pass through the seaweed forest, so Longhair snags a sample, using his high-res camera to get some close-up shots. The chef sees them and jokes about them being sea veggies, wondering if he can cook them up for tonight's menu. The chef can't hear Longhair, who is busy telling the colonel that the water is surprisingly warm and the area below is massive. They realize they're only seeing the top leaves, which means this stuff grows incredibly fast. Nina puts the sample in a glass tank in the lab, deciding to keep it with the fish. Meanwhile, Longhair dives deeper, and suddenly a dead body floats right past him, causing him to scream in terror, which startles everyone inside the sub. Adrenaline spikes heart rates and burns oxygen, so the colonel orders Longhair to head back and let Big Strong take over. But Longhair insists he's fine, claiming he's a trained pro who can handle the situation. He pushes toward the wreckage, but just as he's about to get the shot, a giant octopus attacks him, wrapping its tentacles around him in a split second. Big Strong wants to jump in to save his buddy, but the colonel stops him, fearing they shouldn't move until the situation is clear. Watching his friend's life get snuffed out right in front of him, Big Strong is furious, blaming the colonel for not letting him help. The colonel is in a tough spot. With only two divers, losing them both makes the mission impossible, and his top priority is finding out why Siren 1 crashed. He asks Roberts for his take, but Roberts can't say for sure, only guessing that a pressure issue in the cylinders or some faulty diving gear caused it. Regardless, there's no bringing the dead back, so the mission goes on. Once they cleared the seaweed, they head back toward the black box signal.
In the lab, Nina watches a fish leap out of its tank, thrash around, and die, which is bizarre. Checking closer, she finds the fish's gills are clogged with strange spores, though she has no clue where they came from. Suddenly, the control room picks up an unidentified object barreling toward them. It's huge. The colonel orders a 3,000-foot ascent to avoid a collision and tells Old White to get the external cameras rolling. The object slams into the sub, frying the electrical system, electrocuting a mechanic, and dragging the sub even deeper. The sub can only take about 5,000 feet of pressure, so they're in deep trouble. The exterior cameras catch a glimpse of the creature. It's a massive marine animal. Looks like a giant squid. Vic tells Roberts to tweak the electrodes on the sub's radar protective cover to discharge electricity into the water and shock the squid off. It's a massive gamble, but they have no choice, and it works. The giant creature lets go, but the sub is wrecked. The electrical system is dead, and debris from the creature is blocking the drainage pipes. They're sinking, now down to 45,000 feet, and if they drop another 1,000, the pressure will crush them like a soda can. Robert spots a rocky ridge 300 feet below and suggests landing the sub there. Anna isn't sure, so Vic takes over, knowing this sub better than anyone. He tells Old Black to dump all remaining power into the main engines and kill the searchlights. They'll use the camera light
dynamites to save juice. With his insane driving skills, he manages to land the sub safely on the rocks. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Anna and Old Black's opinion of Vic shifts. He just saved their lives, and Old Black even gives him a lucky chain as a thank you. Once the dust settles, the Colonel orders Roberts to check the damage and calls Vic into his quarters to finish their chat. He lays into Vic for disobeying orders, specifically coming to the control room, but Vic fires back, "Are you blind? We'd all be dead if I hadn't stepped in, and you're blaming me?" The Colonel is tough, but he knows Vic is right, so after chewing him out, he actually praises him and tells him to report back for the next phase, officially letting him back into the control room to help Anna pilot. Nina calls the Colonel next. She's figured out the fish. The seaweed is toxic, sucking up oxygen and releasing poison gas. The fish jumped out to escape the agony, and the fact that this stuff is thriving down here means it's mutated, just like that giant squid. It's likely a product of genetic mutation too. Soon, the electrical system is back online, and Roberts picks up a signal coming from a narrow passage beneath the rock layer. The Colonel sees the destination is just ahead and orders them to move in. Old Black protests, arguing the sub is too damaged and they should head back, sending another team for the black box. Anna insists they finish the job themselves. She's echoing the Colonel's thoughts, fearing he might back down, which triggers a heated argument. They ultimately decide to push into the narrow passage. As they go, the path gets tighter, and they spot a bunch of underwater geysers. Anna suggests leaving the sub and taking the smaller exploration craft, but the Colonel says the exterior heat is too intense for it. Roberts figures he can calculate the eruption timing of the geysers so they can slip through when they're inactive. His math is dead on. Old White skillfully steers them past every vent, and they clear the passage successfully. At the end of the tunnel, they find a massive underwater cavern, leaving Old Black in total shock. He can't wrap his head around how the black box is sending a signal from thousands of meters below the wreckage site.
The signal turns out to be a distress call, and Roberts admits, "I was wrong. This isn't the black box from Siren 1, but it's operating on the exact same frequency." The Colonel views this as a major breakthrough, speculating that Siren 1 might have actually made it here. Since the cave is filled with furniture like tables and chairs, the Colonel calls everyone to the dining hall for a meeting. Robert stays behind to monitor the systems, and once the room clears, he flashes a sinister grin that spells nothing but trouble. The Colonel orders the team to head into the cave to investigate and bring back whoever's sending the signal. Since Nina warned them about the toxic gas, the Colonel is strict. No matter what happens, do not take off your masks. Safety is the absolute priority. A 6-man team heads out. Vic, Anna, Old Black, Old White, Dave, and Big Strong, reaching the shore in an exploration sub. The cave layout is a maze, so they move according to Robert's directions, but soon they hit a split, and the Colonel suggests splitting into 2 teams of 3 to cover ground faster. Anna and Vic take lead of separate teams and head in different directions. Moving through the channel, Vic spots drums of toxic chemicals, which definitely shouldn't be there from the original Siren 1 mission, leaving him stunned. Meanwhile, the area Anna's team is exploring is getting darker, and they start hearing eerie noises coming from the cave walls. Old White thinks the sounds are coming from small holes in the rock, so he leans in to get a better look. It's pitch black inside, but he shrugs it off and keeps moving. After walking a bit further, Old White hears the sound again, still coming from the wall, and decides to check it out more closely. Suddenly, something shoots out of the wall and attacks him, dropping him to the ground instantly. Anna tries to drag him back to the sub for medical help, but since the doctor is with Vic's team, she radios Vic, warning him that something is bursting out of the walls. Old Black looks up and sees that the small holes are actually nests for these hideous large fly-like creatures. They're attracted by sound and scent. In the chaos, Anna accidentally drops her location tracker into a deep crevice. Big Strong urges her to forget the tracker because they need to get out immediately to save Old White. But after reaching safety, they notice Old White shivering violently as if something inside him is trying to claw its way out. Anna realizes he's a lost cause, so she makes the tough call and puts him out of his misery with a shot. Anna and Big Strong keep looking for the exit, but while running, Anna falls into a pit. Before Big Strong can pull her up, a massive snake
bursts out and lashes its tail, throwing Big Strong away. Hearing the commotion, a giant lizard emerges and joins the snake to attack them. The snake targets Anna, but she proves why she's an elite captain. She bounces back, rolls, grabs her gun, and takes the snake down with one shot. But Big Strong isn't as lucky. He lost his weapon when he was thrown, and without it, he's defenseless against the giant lizard.
The creature tears into his leg, and Big Strong dies from the blood loss. When Vic and his team finally reach the signal point, they find Old White's body, but there's no sign of Anna. Pushing further, they find Big Strong's body, but Anna is still missing. They are now very close to the source of the distress call, and the immediate area seems clear, so the Colonel orders Vic to head to the signal point to investigate. Just then, the sub's heat converter alarm goes off, and the Colonel sends the mechanic to check it out. When Vic reaches the end of the cave, he finds a laboratory with a corpse slumped over a computer. It looks like the researcher hit the signal button just before dying. Vic kills the signal and grabs 2 data disks, realizing these contain all the lab's research. He heads back to the sub, still with no sign of Anna. Meanwhile, the mechanic arrives at the heat converter room and finds it clogged with the same aquatic weeds, thinking they're blocking the airflow. As he starts clearing them, something sprays onto him, and his body begins to melt in seconds. The chef hears his screams and rushes over, only to be horrified when the mechanic grabs him. The chef sees that the mechanic's body is now completely infested with that parasitic weed. The chef screams for the Colonel, who rushes over and sees the mechanic being consumed by the weeds, which appear to be feeding on his body. Nina guesses that it's spreading through the water, so she orders Roberts to shut down all water lines, the showers, kitchen, and lab. The chef suddenly feels sick, clutching his stomach in agony. When Nina asks if he drank any water, the chef admits he was so shocked by the mechanic's condition that he had a glass of water to calm down. That means the chef is infected too. There's no cure, so the Colonel locks him in a room for quarantine. Just then, Vic returns to the sub. As he's boarding, the doctor slips and falls into the water. A massive fish lunges at him, and since the doctor can't swim, he's dragged into the depths in the blink of an eye. Old Black wants to dive in after him, but Vic holds him back, knowing the fish is too strong and it's a suicide mission. Back on the sub, Vic hands the discs to the Colonel and tells him to decode them. The dead researcher's video confirms the lab was experimenting with a DNA catalyst. Nina knows exactly what that is. A DNA catalyst can rewrite the genetic structure of any organism, rearranging genes to trigger rapid growth. It's incredibly dangerous, and no one has ever perfected it. Vic concludes that the researchers at the base must have succeeded, and the giant flies, the octopus, the fish, and these toxic weeds are all products of that catalyst. Nina adds that if this is true, the researchers likely died at the hands of their own monsters, and the machine driving the experiment is still running in the cave. If this continues, it's a death sentence for humanity. Old Black suggests they leave immediately and warn the military, but the Colonel refuses, insisting they stay to destroy the machine themselves. He orders Roberts to stay on the ship to keep comms open, and the 4 remaining members gear up for the final push.
As soon as they entered the cavern, they received a signal from Anna. Anna reported that she had been surrounded by monsters, and while fighting them off, she had retreated into the chemical supply room for shelter. She was running low on ammunition, and the situation was extremely critical. Roberts tracked the location of the chemical room for them. When they were about 50 yards away from their destination, Nina said she had spotted some strange machines, and something inside them was moving, so she went over to check. The moment she got close, several tentacles suddenly shot out of the machine and dragged her inside in an instant. When Vic and the others reached the chemical room, they saw dozens of transparent or semi-transparent capsules. They looked like the embryos of some kind of creature. Nina had never seen anything like them before, and out of curiosity, she touched one, causing a capsule to fall to the ground and shatter. Inside was a strange, human-shaped baby that looked incredibly ugly and horrifying. Seeing this, they realized that the ultimate purpose of these genetically modified creatures was to return to the surface of Earth. Right at that moment, the machines suddenly came to life, and the 4 of them saw Anna trapped inside one of them. Nina realized that the machines were essentially extracting cellular material or cytoplasm and sending it somewhere else through a series of pipes. Old Black looked up to see what was on the other end of the pipe, and what he saw was a gigantic snake that looked like a massive chrysanthemum. Old Black attacked first and opened fire, but the snake's skin was so thick that the bullets had no effect at all. Instead, the snake lunged at Old Black and swallowed him whole. Since ordinary bullets weren't working, Vic came up with the idea of shooting the oil drums and setting off an explosion. The drums were directly beneath the snake, and there were also a lot of chemicals nearby, so the explosion was incredibly powerful. It not only killed the snake, but also completely destroyed the machines responsible for the DNA and genetic modifications. After seeing everything that had happened, Roberts decided that it was time to escape, so he tried to board the escape pod or life-saving vessel and get away. In reality, he was a spy, and his true objective was to destroy the genetic catalyst machines and erase all the information from the lab. Roberts finished adjusting all the submarine settings and prepared to escape, but suddenly an alarm went off in the system. When Vic and the others had gone outside, the submarine's door had been left open, so Roberts had to close it first, otherwise he wouldn't be able to leave. As he approached the door, Vic and the others returned as well. When the colonel saw Roberts, he was thrilled, thinking Roberts had come back to help them. But the moment Roberts closed the door and came back inside, the colonel realized his mistake. The man he trusted more than anyone had betrayed him. Fortunately, Vic had installed an emergency door opening button on the outside of the submarine in case something went wrong. They used it to get inside and discovered that all the doors were open, while the interior was filled with a sharp, pungent smell. Roberts appeared behind them, and with a gun pointed at Nina, he took her hostage and forced everyone to listen to him. Vic asked what this was all about. Roberts said contemptuously, "Since you're all about to die anyway, you might as well know everything before you go. I wanted to use the explosion of Siren 2 to shut down this pipeline, so the secret of the DNA catalyst would be buried in this cavern forever. The Siren 2 incident would have been passed off as an accident, and you, Vic, would have been blamed as the one responsible for the accident. Since you would have died at sea, the whole thing would have been covered up forever."
Because if the world found out about this biological experiment, the American military will become an enemy of the entire world. After finishing, Roberts told them to stay trapped inside the laboratory and wait to die. The colonel argued that it would be impossible to keep this secret because sooner or later, someone would find Siren 1's black box. Hearing this, Roberts burst into loud laughter because there had never been any black box at all. Those signals had been created by Roberts himself. The whole thing had been an elaborate setup. By then, moss and parasitic plants had already spread throughout the lab, and if they stayed there, they would become infected and die before the explosion even happened. But Vic didn't panic at all. Since he had designed the submarine himself, he knew that the main control room was located directly on the other side of the laboratory wall. After entering the control room, Vic pulled out a data board. It was essentially the energy controller, and without it, the submarine was nothing more than a useless piece of metal. Vic began negotiating with Roberts and said, "This chip might be worth almost nothing, but it's the only chip like it on the entire ship. Without it, the submarine is completely useless." Then Vic pulled out a lighter and threatened to burn the chip. He gave Roberts 3 seconds, either open the door or everyone dies together. Roberts had no choice but to open the door. On the other side, they saw the colonel lying on a bed, looking like he was barely hanging on. In reality, the colonel was pretending to be weak while wearing a protective suit. As soon as Roberts came close, the colonel suddenly punched him, completely catching Roberts off guard. But because the colonel was elderly, he couldn't keep up with Roberts in a prolonged fight. In the end, Vic came to help him, and together they forced Roberts into the isolation or quarantine room and locked him inside. To finish the job, the colonel grabbed Roberts by the head and slammed it against the infected cook, causing Roberts to become severely infected as well. Once everything was settled, Vic began examining the data while the colonel programmed the submarine's self-destruct sequence. In just 2 minutes, the submarine would be destroyed. When Vic and Nina entered the escape pod, the colonel locked the door from the outside because during his struggle with Roberts, the moss had gotten onto his own hand as well. Nina was devastated, feeling the pain of losing a colleague she had worked alongside for so long. Vic told her that they had only one thing left to do to make sure the colonel's sacrifice wasn't in vain. He took all the CDs and records with him because he wanted to reveal the truth to the entire world. With his final moments, the colonel used the submarine to travel back through the narrow passage, planning to take it into the tightest possible section and detonate it there, so the entrance to the cavern would be sealed forever. In the end, this movie may not seem all that scary by today's standards, and the animation of the monsters is also pretty basic. But back in the day, watching creatures like these these on TV could scare the hell out of kids. Starting in the 1980s, a huge number of science fiction horror movies like this were made, usually centered around outer space or the deep ocean. In reality, they represented a fear of the unknown. People know very little about outer space or the ocean, so everyone naturally feels both curiosity and fear about what might be lurking deep beneath the sea. The movie's main storyline is pretty well organized and well put together. However, the later battles with the monsters feel a little too easy. The creatures are shown very rarely on screen, almost making it seem like the real enemy is the toxic moss itself. There are also a few scientific details that I have some doubts about, such as having a cavern 45,000 feet below the surface with what appears to be a normal environment, which isn't particularly realistic. But overall, the movie is still enjoyable. This kind of ending, where the heroes survive because someone sacrifices themselves, could come from almost any movie. And I think the endings of science fiction movies like The Core follow a very similar pattern. Anyway, that's all for today. If you enjoyed it, please support the video with a like. Thank you all for watching, and that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video.